Welcome to Everyday English Stories. Today's story is called The Community Garden. Listen carefully. After the story, we will learn 6 useful words from it. Ready? Let's begin. Nora had spent the better part of a decade in a 4th-floor flat where the closest thing to nature was a resilient plastic fern and the pigeons negotiating her windowsill. She belonged to that quiet tribe of city dwellers who linger outside florists, inhaling borrowed greenery before returning to lives measured in commutes and deadlines. It was therefore entirely out of character and entirely welcome when she impulsively signed up for a plot at the new community garden on Green Lane. The hand-painted poster had promised nothing grander than soil, water, and company, which, on reflection, was precisely what her life had been missing. The plot itself was humble, a rectangle of earth scarcely larger than a dining table, hemmed in by weathered railway sleepers. Yet when she knelt and worked the soil through her fingers, dark and crumbling and faintly sweet, she felt an absurd flicker of proprietorship. Her enthusiasm, alas, outstripped her expertise by a considerable margin. She could not have distinguished a seedling from a weed if her life had depended on it. Rescue came in the form of Leo, a retired postman whose weather-beaten forearms and unhurried manner suggested decades of intimate acquaintance with growing things. First gardens run on optimism and borrowed tools, he observed, handing her a creased envelope of tomato seeds as though conferring a modest inheritance. Tomatoes are indulgent teachers, they reward attention and overlook incompetence. Under his tutelage she turned the bed, drew out shallow drills with a bamboo cane, and committed her seeds to the ground with disproportionate ceremony. There followed a fortnight of daily watering and mounting doubt, during which the plot remained as blank and uncommunicative as a switched-off screen. Just as her resolve began to fray, a procession of minute green shoots breached the surface, tentative, improbable, and utterly triumphant. The Saturdays that followed acquired a gentle liturgy of their own. Leo initiated her into the finer mysteries of the craft, staking the adolescent plants, pinching out the greedy side shoots, reading the weather in the behavior of bees. Nora reciprocated in the only currency she had: strong tea, homemade shortbread, and an inexhaustible supply of questions. Almost imperceptibly, the garden wove her into its small society. A medical student nursed strawberries between night shifts, and an elderly widow grew dahlias purely, she said, for the extravagance of it. By the middle of August her tomato plants had achieved a swaggering, jungle-like exuberance, their trusses bowing under fruit in every shade from jade to lacquered crimson. On a luminous Sunday morning she gathered her first proper harvest, each tomato still holding the sun's warmth. She distributed them with the prodigality of a new convert to Leo, to the student, to the housebound couple across her landing who received them like contraband jewels. A thoroughly respectable first season, Leo pronounced, sampling one with the gravity of a wine judge. That evening she reduced her own tomatoes to a fragrant, rust-red soup, and her flat smelled, for the first time in a decade, of something she had grown herself. Her weekends had acquired shape and soil under the fingernails, her contacts list had thickened with gardeners, and her sense of the city had softened at the edges. The bare patch of earth she had so nearly talked herself out of claiming had become, without fanfare, the most generous corner of her life. Great listening. Now, let's learn 6 useful words from the story. Word 1, proprietorship. Proprietorship is the state or the feeling of being an owner. In the story, she felt an absurd flicker of proprietorship. Word 2, tutelage. Tutelage is instruction and guidance received from a mentor. In the story, under his tutelage she turned the bed and committed her seeds to the ground. Word 3, to fray. When nerves or resolve fray, they begin to weaken or come apart. In the story, just as her resolve began to fray, a procession of minute green shoots breached the surface. Word 4. To reciprocate. To reciprocate means to respond to a kind action by doing something kind in return. In the story, Nora reciprocated in the only currency she had, strong tea and homemade shortbread. Word 5. Exuberance. Exuberance is overflowing energy, liveliness, or abundant growth. In the story, her tomato plants had achieved a swaggering, jungle-like exuberance. Word 6. Prodigality. Prodigality is lavish, almost extravagant generosity in giving. In the story, she distributed them with the prodigality of a new convert. That's all for today. Here is a tip. Listen to the story one more time. Repetition helps you remember the new words. New episodes every day. Subscribe and see you tomorrow.